Hello, my darling viewers, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Miranda, and I am the Enchantress of Avalon. So, as the title suggests, today's video is all about my favorite topic, Avalon, and the Isle of Apples as a fairyland that is associated with both water magic and green magic. I thought this was an excellent topic as the summer solstice is very quickly approaching. It is on Wednesday, is the official solstice date, which just means it is the longest day of the year. The longest amount of light hours and the shortest amount of dark hours. And then after that, we lose minutes of light each day and until, the winter solstice where the light starts to return again. I know, super interesting, right? Anyway, when we're talking about any of the Wheel of the Year holidays, we are talking about very powerful days. While the cross-quarter days are celebrated by pretty much anyone in magical traditions, especially if they are pagan or any form of Wiccan or anything. But not everyone celebrates all 8. However, even the other 4 days are still powerful days in that they are showing in a solar holiday where the sun is. You're having either the most amount of sunlight, the least amount of sunlight, or equal amounts of sunlight. And during the summer months, you feel this draw to be outside in the summery sun and in the beautiful weather, right? So that brings out a lot of this very fairy energy. It's very nature-based, very elemental energy. And the 2 elements that I am most connected to, as I'm sure anyone familiar with my content knows, are of course water and earth. And I've been deepening into my connection to earth as of recently because I was always just really focused in the water aspect. And while I was always fascinated by the green side, I never really felt that draw as deeply as I did with water. But now I'm realizing I'm deeply drawn to both pretty much equally, especially given I'm currently taking my amazing herbalism course and I have this love of working with plants and with nature and of earthing, walking barefoot on the grass and things. I'm realizing both are very valid to this Avalonian path, this fairy land of Avalon that I feel so deeply connected to and I love so much. Well, how are they both water and green magic so intrinsically linked to Avalon? Let's get into it. So, Avalon is very literally an island. It is surrounded by water and the healing powers of the depths of the sea. You need to access Avalon by taking a barge, a ship, and parting the mists to get to this sacred island. It's very hard to reach, but it is very worthwhile to take that journey. And it is known very much so as an island of healing. It is, in even its very earliest descriptions, talked about as a place where people grow old. Humans that live on this island live hundreds of years and very long, very fruitful lives. And where the fairies are eternal, the apple trees are eternal, and this whole land is renewing of itself. And that even the dead, because it is also a island of the dead, even the dead might have a second chance at life, which is why that ties into Arthur as once and future king. When he is brought to the island of Avalon to be healed and nurtured after his final battle at Camlan, we have this whole nature of him possibly being able to return due to the healing nature of Avalon. Well, healing is a very feminine art in the oldest way possible because healing is the nature of both water and the nature of earth. It is that perfect balance of those 2 types of magic and of those 2 very, very essential elements. We have healing when we're talking about ingesting some form of a prepared potion or a prepared healing substance. It's often in the form of a tisane, which would be a tea. If it is with just herbs, it would be technically a tisane, although we just call it herbal tea, because it would not have the Camellia sinensis plant, which is the actual tea plant. Tinctures, which is herbs infused into alcohol, elixirs, salves, oil infusions, because we have that liquid substance, which is sometimes water or sometimes other forms of liquid substances, which likely have water within them in some form. And we have that as what is called the menstruum, the liquid solvent, essentially, and the mark, the plant materials that are infusing into it to make a medicine to heal. So when we're making herbal medicines, we still need that water to balance things out. And often when we're practicing other types of watery cleansings, like a ritual bath or a cleansing healing bath, we're going to add herbal substances into that to balance it. And Avalon is very associated with herb craft. And even if you look into the Sisterhood of Avalon tradition, Jenna Tellinger's amazing book, The Mythic Moons of Avalon, is a lunar and herbal healing book. So she connects all of the moon cycles to different herbs. So we have that intrinsic association between the lunar, which the moon rules over the tides. So the lunar is very much associated with the water element, and the herbal, which is the green earthy element, entwined together. And we have herbalism and herbcraft mentioned in even the earliest literary mention of Avalon in, of course, Geoffrey of Monmouth's Vita Merlini. I have talked about this little paragraph that talks about Avalon ad nauseum, and I'll continue to talk about it. It's such an incredibly important passage to anyone who is drawn to Avalon, because that is where it all began. And he is describing Morgan as the leader of a ninefold sisterhood of fairy queens, of healers on this island. And she is the most gifted in herbal knowledge, and she's able to shapeshift and take flight on strange wings like Daedalus. And it's just a beautiful description. And it mentions her as a healer and as an herbalist, just right from the gate. And she's carried with herself through all of her incarnations, even when she's evil, that knowledge of herbalism and that ability to heal, because she's able to poison as well as heal later on. She always was, but she would be more likely to do it later on when she's supposed to be a villain. Yet she's also always one of the three queens who comes and collects Arthur on that barge to take him to Avalon, even when she's been his rival and even when she's tried to bring about his downfall. She always returns to that healing and renewing aspect at the very end. So what else do we have? Orchard. Of course, Avalon is the Isle of Apples, so there are, as well as a fairy woodland with that is Avalon itself, we have the orchard, where all of the apple trees just have abundant fruit all year round without need of even being cultivated. It just grows freely. It's an absolutely gorgeous description, and it's gorgeous to imagine. And apples are, of course, fruit of knowledge. So it's this knowledge of the earth and knowledge of how to use that to heal, right? But also knowledge of how to go within yourself. It's a very, anyone who is interested in the path of Avalon, it's a very internal path, very much the going within to the waters of the unconscious, to the depths of your shadows, and down beneath the earth in many ways. You could look at it both from a watery and an earthy perspective. And that ability to gain knowledge is contained within the apple itself. So it's a very, very powerful fruit. And it is, of course, an earth element item because it's fruit, but we need water to make it grow. So you can't have any of this amazing plant life without water to help the earth be fertile and grow the fruits of the earth, right? And this is also carried into the idea of sovereignty, right? Sovereignty of the land is the land incarnate that can give blessings to kings. And we see this with sovereignty figures marrying kings to cement their rulership of the land. Rife throughout Celtic tradition, but when we're talking Avalon and we're talking the Arthurian tradition, we're looking at examples like Arthur and Guinevere and Lula Gaifes and Bodaiwith. They were the literal fairy queens, the sovereignty goddesses, the literal representatives of the land itself, marrying a king to cement his rulership and ability to rule over his lands. They're the earthy side, but on the more watery side, we have the Lady of the Lake. And she is, these powerful fairy women residing within this lake, residing on the Isle of Avalon, likely a member of the Gorgethanune, who are, of course, lake maidens of Wales. She bestowed the sword of Excalibur upon Arthur, which also served to empower him as a king, and she fostered an orphaned Lancelot on Avalon when he was needing a mother figure. And there is an ancient Celtic tradition of women fostering warriors, and that's, of course, continuing this. And, of course, she's often seen as a reflex of Morgana, but another Avalonian goddess is sometimes connected with the Lady of the Lake, and that is Rhiannon, actually, said to have evolved into becoming the Lady of the Lake eventually. So we have this very Avalonian watery aspect, also securing sovereignty of the land, just like the earthy aspect helps with the sovereignty of the land. And then, of course, I did touch upon this, but Morgan in her role as an herbalist and a healing fairy queen combines the green and water magics because, as I have explained, we can't make medicines without both a watery element and an earth element. So even the greenest of magics have to be infused with a little bit of water magic knowledge. I do hope that you have enjoyed this little bit of a deep dive into how green and water magics relate to fairy and relate to Avalon. If you have enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out my blog, whiteroseofavalon.life. And if you want to join in the discussion a little bit more, I do have a Discord server. It is always linked in the description box down below, so you can join and get more into the discussion. And I sometimes also ask for opinions on different subjects I might cover on my blog or in future videos, so you might get to have your voice heard. So I really do hope that you've enjoyed. Have a wonderful week and a really awesome Monday, everyone. Bye now, and happy summer solstice.